China is about to turn the 2026 Chengdu Auto Show into a warning shot for the entire Western car industry. When the doors open on August 21st, the Xiaomi SkyNomad N90, Freelander 8, Luxeed V9, and Epicland X9 are already confirmed to be among the headline Chinese machines on display, and those are only the officially announced cars. Add the Zeekr 9X, Voya Passion S, and the 1,600 horsepower Denza Z to the same wave of Chinese automotive madness, and this stops looking like another auto show, starts looking like a takeover. These are the machines China is bringing into the spotlight: mobile luxury apartments, private jets on wheels, super SUVs with illegal-feeling power, and an electric supercar built to walk directly into Europe's territory. And the first one might be the clearest warning of them all. Xiaomi just built a 7-seat SUV that makes America's biggest family vehicles look like expensive empty boxes. This is the SkyNomad N90 Max, and it is not trying to be another fast electric crossover with a giant screen glued to the dashboard. Xiaomi looked at the modern luxury SUV and noticed something ridiculous. These vehicles keep getting bigger, heavier, and more expensive. Yet most of their interiors are still locked into one boring position: 3 rows facing forward, a tiny center console, maybe 2 cup holders with ambient lighting if the manufacturer is feeling generous. The N90 attacks that laziness directly. Its cabin can physically transform around the people inside it. The front seats rotate 180 degrees. The center armrest slides out and becomes a table. The second row can turn into a pair of zero-gravity lounge chairs. There is even a camping edition with a pop-up roof, a rooftop sleeping area, a tent connection, a detachable outdoor table, and available equipment such as a refrigerator and overhead speakers. Xiaomi calls it a house you can move. That sounds like marketing nonsense until you see the interior fold, rotate, and rearrange itself like a luxury apartment designed by people who got bored of normal cars. Underneath that moving living room is Xiaomi's new Kunlun architecture. The flagship combines a 76 kilowatt-hour battery with a 1.5-liter turbocharged gasoline range extender and a 60-liter fuel tank. The wheels are driven electrically, while the engine is there to generate energy when the battery needs support. Xiaomi claims up to 1,705 kilometers, roughly 1,059 miles, of combined range under China's test cycle. And then comes the number that should make established luxury brands uncomfortable: 299,900 yuan. That is roughly 44,400 US dollars, or about 62,000 Canadian dollars at current exchange rates. Think about what that means. In the American market, buyers are trained to accept enormous prices for a serious 3-row electric SUV. The N90 arrives with a huge battery, range extender security, 7 seats, and an interior that can become a lounge, bedroom, cafe, or mobile office, for money that barely gets you into the lower end of many Western luxury lineups. And this is only China's opening move, because the next machine brings back a name the British car industry abandoned and returns it wearing Chinese armor. The Freelander 8 is not simply another Land Rover model, and that distinction matters. Freelander has been revived as an independent premium all-terrain brand through the Chery and Jaguar Land Rover partnership. The design carries British influence, but the vehicle underneath is built around China's latest electric architecture, batteries, digital systems, and manufacturing scale. It is also enormous, more than 5.1 meters long, over 2 meters wide, and arranged as a proper 6-seater with a 2+2+2 layout. This is not the small Freelander people remember squeezing through European streets. This thing looks like that old name went away for 12 years, entered a secret military program, and returned in God mode. The body is square, upright, and almost arrogant. The hood sits high, the wheel arches are thick, the glasshouse is tall enough to give it real road presence, and available 22-inch wheels make it look less like a family crossover and more like a mobile command center. But the cabin is where the Freelander 8 becomes borderline disrespectful. Across the dashboard sits a 46.3-inch panoramic display stretching approximately 1.2 meters from side to side that is joined by a separate 15.6-inch central control screen. Instead of forcing the driver and passenger to fight over one tablet, the layout creates separate zones across the front of the cabin. Its reported production hardware includes a roughly 60 kilowatt-hour CATL battery, an 800-volt electrical system, high-rate charging capability, dual-chamber air suspension, an all-terrain management system, and multiple electronic locking functions. The range extender allows the electric motors to remain the main source of propulsion, while the gasoline engine removes the panic of arriving at a broken charger with 5% battery remaining. The reported electric-only range is more than 200 kilometers under the WLTC test cycle. That means many owners could complete an entire week of normal driving without waking the engine at all, then use the range extender for long-distance travel. That is exactly the kind of flexibility buyers keep asking the industry to build. American buyers are regularly told they must choose full electric and deal with charging anxiety, gasoline and accept terrible fuel economy, plug-in hybrid and receive a tiny battery that feels like it came out of a cordless drill. The Freelander 8 refuses that compromise. It wants electric daily driving, long-distance freedom, serious all-terrain ability, executive seating, and a dashboard that looks stolen from an aircraft. Its final price has not yet been announced, with Chinese pre-sales scheduled to begin in August. But the positioning is obvious. It sits below the most expensive Range Rover products while aiming directly at the Defender, Lexus, GX, BMW X7, and premium three-row SUV segment. The original Freelander was the affordable entrance into Land Rover ownership. The new Freelander 8 could become something much more threatening, the affordable entrance into a level of technology Land Rover does not currently offer. Then China takes the traditional family van, throws away every apology attached to it, and turns it into a private jet. The Luxeed V9 exists because somebody finally admitted the truth about American family vehicles. A Chrysler Pacifica is practical, but nobody walks toward one feeling powerful. A giant SUV looks important, but it wastes an absurd amount of space pretending to be rugged, and most executive vans offered overseas never officially reach North America. The V9 attacks that empty space between minivan usefulness and limousine status. At more than 5.3 meters long, with a 3.25 meter wheelbase, the V9 is a full-size 7-seat luxury MPV created through the Chery and Huawei ecosystem. It is not designed around fake off-road aggression. Every major decision is focused on the people inside. The floor is low, the roof is tall, the doors create an enormous opening. The second row feels less like car seating and more like a first-class cabin installed on wheels. The chairs recline, support the body, and create the kind of personal space normally reserved for the back of a stretched limousine. Huawei technology manages the intelligent cabin and driver assistance systems, while the range-extended powertrain eliminates the biggest weakness of a giant electric luxury vehicle. Every version uses a 53.4 kilowatt-hour battery. The rear-wheel drive model produces 227 kilowatts, while all-wheel drive variants reach 382 kilowatts, around 512 horsepower. The AWD version can accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in approximately 5.9 seconds. That is completely unnecessary for a 7-seat executive lounge, which is exactly why it is excellent. The V9 is not a sports car, but when the driver asks for power, more than 2.5 tons of leather, screens, glass, and personal comfort move with the urgency of a performance sedan. It is engineering witchcraft wearing formal clothes. Luxeed offers 4 main versions, priced from 389,800 to 519,800 yuan. That converts to roughly 57,600 to 76,800 US dollars, or approximately 80,600 to 107,500 Canadian dollars. In the United States, that money can disappear into a conventional luxury SUV before options. The V9 gives the buyer an interior designed around actual human comfort, a long combined driving range, serious acceleration, and technology that would be treated as a 6-figure innovation package by a Western badge. This is the vehicle America's minivan market should have evolved into. Instead, the segment got folding cup holders and a vacuum cleaner. China gave it 0 gravity seats and 500 horsepower. And somehow, the next vehicle is even more mysterious, the Voya Passion S. This car goes after a very specific frustration. Performance SUV buyers are being charged sports car money for vehicles that are heavy, visually confused, and often less practical than the normal SUVs they replaced. Manufacturers lower the roof, add black wheels, install aggressive seats, and pretend the job is complete. Voya approached the Passion S like an aerodynamic weapon. The body is more than 5 meters long, but only around 1.65 meters tall. 10 integrated air channels, 18 air outlets, active grille shutters, and a carbon fiber rear spoiler help the shape achieve a claimed drag coefficient of 0.24. It sits low and wide, with a fastback roofline and enormous 21-inch wheels. The front lighting is narrow and focused. The rear shoulders rise around the cabin. It does not look like a family SUV trying to appear sporty. It looks like a grand touring car that swallowed an SUV platform and became stronger. The rear-wheel drive version is listed at 300 kilowatts, around 402 horsepower. The all-wheel drive configuration adds a front motor and raises combined output to 475 kilowatts, or approximately 637 horsepower. Every version is expected to use an 800-volt architecture with available battery capacities reported at 81.6 and 98.1 kilowatt-hours. The longest range configuration is rated at up to 700 kilometers under the optimistic CLTC cycle. And then there are the sensors. Voya has shown the Passion S with 4 LiDAR units and Huawei's latest Chengdu driver assistance system. While some brands are trying to hide one sensor inside the grille, this car arrives looking like it wants complete situational awareness in every direction. Final pricing and complete charging figures were still not confirmed in reliable public specifications, so those numbers should not be invented, but the target is already visible. The Passion S wants the customer considering a BMW iX, Tesla Model X, Porsche Macan Electric, Lucid Gravity, or a high-performance Mercedes electric SUV. The difference is that Voya is not relying on one famous badge to make the sale. It is using power, aerodynamics, intelligent driving hardware, and visual intimidation. That is a much harder sales pitch for Western manufacturers to defeat, because heritage cannot outrun 637 horsepower forever. But if the Passion S is a blade, the Zeekr 9X is a building that learned how to launch itself. This is China's answer to the Range Rover, BMW XM, Mercedes Maybach, GLS, and possibly even the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, except Zeekr did not study those vehicles and politely copy their formula. It took the physical presence, deleted the old mechanical limitations, and activated God mode. The 9X rides on Zeekr's SEA-S architecture with a 900-volt electrical system. The flagship powertrain can produce up to 1,000 kilowatts, more than 1,300 horsepower, and move this enormous 6-seat SUV from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.1 seconds. 3.1 seconds in a vehicle shaped like a luxury hotel. That acceleration is not merely fast, it is physically confusing. Your eyes see an enormous upright hood, thick doors, multiple seating rows, and a cabin packed with luxury equipment. Your body then experiences the launch of a serious supercar. The powertrain combines electric drive with a 2.0-liter turbocharged engine used within Zeekr's super hybrid system. Depending on configuration, the battery can provide hundreds of kilometers of claimed electric range, allowing the 9X to operate like a pure EV for daily use. The 900-volt system also supports extremely rapid charging. Instead of treating the gasoline engine as an excuse to install a tiny battery, Zeekr gives the vehicle a substantial electric foundation and then adds the engine as long-distance insurance. Inside, the 9X uses a 6-seat arrangement with available rotating second-row chairs, large OLED displays, premium leather, real wood, crystal detailing, and a massive Naim audio system. Feels less like a car interior and more like a private members club that can accidentally outrun a Lamborghini. Chinese pricing started from 465,900 yuan and extended to 599,900 yuan. That is approximately 68,800 to 88,600 US dollars, or around 96,000 to 124,000 Canadian dollars. That is not cheap. Zeekr is no longer pretending to be the budget alternative, but compare what that money buys. Similar performance from a Western premium badge normally enters a completely different financial universe. Similar luxury often means accepting far less power. Similar size usually brings far more fuel consumption. The Zeekr 9X combines all three and then places them inside a vehicle that can drive electrically through the city. This is the moment the argument changes. China is no longer winning only by being cheaper. China is now building the more outrageous product, and then Denza arrives to finish the argument. The Denza Z is what happens when BYD stops trying to prove it can build sensible electric cars and decides to attack the emotional center of the European performance industry. For decades, the supercar formula belonged to a small club. Italy supplied the drama, Germany supplied precision, Britain supplied lightweight madness, America supplied displacement and violence. China was not invited, so Denza built its own table. The Z is an all-electric four-seat supercar offered as a coupe, Spider, and racing version. Every main version uses three motors, one at the front and two independently controlling the rear wheels, for a combined 1,604 PS and 1,240 Newton meters of torque. The standard coupe reaches 62 miles per hour in 2.25 seconds. The racing version, fitted with its optional semi-slick tires, cuts that to 1.96 seconds and continues to 217 miles per hour. That is not performance. That is a legal teleportation device. Yet the acceleration figure is almost the least interesting part. The two rear motors can control each wheel independently. Denza's vehicle motion system coordinates power, braking, steering, and suspension responses within milliseconds. The Daisu's magnetorheological dampers can alter their behavior almost instantly, allowing the car to remain usable on an imperfect road and then lock itself down when the driver becomes irresponsible. Carbon ceramic brakes are standard. The racing version adds a carbon fiber splitter, aggressive underbody aerodynamics, additional cooling, and an adjustable rear wing. At maximum speed, the aero package can generate an extraordinary amount of downforce. Inside, Denza resisted the temptation to turn the Z into a rolling movie theater. There is digital technology, Google integration, Divulet audio, and adjustable comfort, but the steering wheel remains the center of the experience. Physical controls provide access to functions such as boost and track modes. This is a driver's car, just one that happens to have software controlling an absurd amount of electricity. The 76 kilowatt-hour Blade battery supports a claimed WLTP range of up to 254 miles in the coupe. More importantly, Denza's flash charging system is designed to take the battery from 10 to 70% in 5 minutes and from 10 to 97% in 9 minutes when connected to the required ultra-high power charging equipment. The United Kingdom price is £142,900 for the coupe, £159,900 for the Spider, and £172,900 for the racing version. That places the Z directly inside territory occupied by Porsche, McLaren, high-end Mercedes AMG products, and serious track machinery. Denza is not asking to be excused because it is new. It is turning up at Goodwood with 1,604 horsepower, a former Formula One champion beside it, 3 production variants, and a special version being prepared for the Nürburgring. That is not an introduction. That is a declaration of war. And now comes the part that makes all 7 of these vehicles feel like forbidden machinery. For buyers in the United States, these cars are effectively locked behind more than normal dealership availability. Chinese electric vehicles face a 100% tariff, while U.S. connected vehicle rules begin prohibiting covered Chinese software and sales by affected Chinese manufacturers from the 2027 model year. Hardware restrictions become stricter later. Even privately importing one is not as simple as paying shipping and collecting the keys. A vehicle must satisfy federal safety, certification, software, and import requirements. The technology that makes these cars so desirable, their connectivity, sensors, assisted driving systems, and integrated software, is also what makes the regulatory wall harder to cross. Meanwhile, north of the border, Canada has opened a narrow door. Canada now allows an annual quota of up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles under the standard 6.1% tariff instead of the former 100% surtax. That does not guarantee every car on this list will suddenly appear in Canadian dealerships. Homologation, permits, charging standards, software language, service networks, parts, and warranty support still matter. But the direction is different. Canada is creating controlled access. The United States is building a technological wall, and that wall may protect domestic manufacturers from direct Chinese competition, but it cannot protect them from the comparison. The world can still see these vehicles. It can see Xiaomi turning a $44,000 SUV into a mobile apartment. It can see Freelander returning with electric range, serious terrain hardware, and a screen wider than some televisions. It can see Luxeed transforming the minivan into a private jet. It can see Epicland building luxury around software instead of leather alone. It can see Voya giving a family SUV supercar power and aerodynamic discipline. It can see Zeekr launching a 3-ton palace like a missile. And it can see Denza walking onto European soil with more than 1,600 horsepower. China is no longer chasing the automobile industry. It is forcing the automobile industry to chase China. The game did not simply change. The power changed hands.